Hi there guys, welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero Show with me, your host Simon Conboy. Today's episode carrying on with my franchise reviews from the year 2007 through to the present day. This episode will be focusing on the New England Patriots, your defending Super Bowl champions heading into next season. So for this series, what I'm doing is reviewing the last 10 years worth of overall records, giving a total record over that time, highlighting any playoff appearances and that jazz, as well as any coaching changes, and then going through the draft picks that the team has made in the last decade and evaluating those. I will go into the grading system when I get to that specific part of the video. I really hope you enjoy this. I enjoyed making this series thus far. The research though, that was also quite fun. Learned quite a lot. So regarding the Patriots, of course, Bill Belichick has been the coach for the entire decade. Of course, best coach in the league, arguably the greatest coach of all time. So yeah, he will leave when he wants. And that time frame, they have amassed 126-34 regular season records. I mean, that's incredibly impressive, averaging over 12 wins a season. Incredible, the level of consistency. I understand you've got Brady as well as Belichick, but even with having an all-time coach and an all-time quarterback, those are significant stats. We got 9 playoff appearances, the only non-playoff appearance being the year that Tom Brady went down with the ACL injury, and even that year they had an 11-5 record with Matt Castle leading them. 9 division titles, 2 Super Bowl wins, and 4 Super Bowl appearances. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's incredible stuff. Of course, this is the model franchise in the NFL, regardless of your opinion of them. And let's see whether the draft has been a major part of that. Now, for this draft grading system, what I'm doing, I'm keeping it very simple at this point. It may be modified in future and I may revisit it at a later date. But for the moment, I'm going through the first 3 rounds, due to those being the rounds you expect to get either a starter or a contributor of some description. If the pick is a success, they will be graded as a solid pick. They will give the team a score of +1. I'm being a bit more harsh and strict in my grading of first round players, of course, due to the higher expectations that come from being a first round pick. If they were mediocre, nothing to write home about, but not a clear failure, they will not affect a team's score. And if they are a clear bust, there will be a score of -1. For rounds 4 through 7, I will be attributing value grades. These are players that worked out. It's honestly been shocking doing this research how few of those picks pan out. Definitely not worth going for all of them, so I will be simply highlighting players who have made an impact from those positions and designate them as a +1 value pick score. And then at the end of the week, I'm going to run all these stats together for the Friday review, and we'll have a really detailed, in-depth analysis of it throughout the league, and hopefully we'll have some interesting, we will have some interesting discussion, having all the stats in front of me now. So the Patriots, the 2007 draft, only 1 pick in the first 3 rounds, and that pick was Brandon Merriweather, the safety, with the 24th overall pick. Went to a couple of Pro Bowls in his time in New England. I don't feel he should have. Always felt he was a bit of an overrated player. I'm not rating him as a bust. I don't think it was a particularly solid pick. He was a contributor. I think he was right on the level of what you expect from a first rounder, but he's not what you would hope for from a first rounder. So I expect to have some Patriots fans unhappy with that, but I'm just great. That's not going down as a solid, just a fine, reasonable pick. The 2008 draft, first round, Jared Mayo, the recently retired, I believe he retired before last season, linebacker, with the 10th overall pick. Typical Belichick player by all accounts. Apparently Belichick was a big fan of his. Won All-Pro team, couple of Pro Bowls. Was a very, very solid player for them. I'm torn a little on this one. I've graded it as a solid because I do think he was a very, very good player. But for a top 10 pick, it's a tough one, but I'm going with solid just because I think he was a really good player for them. I think he was actually very important for what they were doing defensively at those times, and I've got no doubt Bill Belichick is, he was a fan of the pick, so who am I to argue on that one? Falls down a bit off that second round, Terrence Wheatley, defensive back. He did nothing, he was a bust. Third round pick, Sean Crable, the linebacker. He did nothing, he was a bust. In the third, Kevin O'Connell, the quarterback. He did absolutely nothing with his time in the league. He goes down as another bust. And in the fifth, I've got Matt Slater down. Simply because he's been one of the best special teamers. Belichick does like drafting players higher than most, specifically for special teams. He's been one of the best in the league at it. So that's going to go down as a value pick, as a fifth round. And if you've got a problem with that, well, you don't put enough stock in special teams. The 2009 draft, in no first round pick that year. They traded up for Mayo, I believe that was the reason why. So several second rounders. They probably traded down as well, knowing them. The first of those second rounders was Patrick Chung, the safety. I've put that solid, good second round pick. Has been a consistent start during his time in New England. Another second round pick, Ron Brace, the defensive tackle. He was a bust, did nothing with his career. Darius Butler, the cornerback. He's had a reasonable NFL career. I'm just edging that into solid, but that could easily be no score. Sebastian Vollmer, also in the second round, the offensive tackle. That is another solid pick. In the third, Brandon Tate, the running back. He was a bust, he did nothing. And also in the third, Tyrone McKenzie, the linebacker. He also did nothing and was a bust. And then we've got one of those good old-fashioned value picks in the seventh round, Julian Edelman. A lot of people probably don't know he's been in the league that long. Of course, he sat for several years sort of behind Wes Welker, who every white guy that plays in the slot gets compared to, of course. The 2010 draft, I've got this down, a note here. At the end of the week, during the Friday episode, I will be doing my top 10 favourite and least favourite draft individual draft classes, and this is a contender for that best list. So in the first, we've got Devin McCourty with the 27th overall pick. He's been a really, really good player for them. I thought he wasn't particularly good in his first couple of seasons. Had him at corner, but he's really developed into an outstanding safety. That's a solid pick. In the second, Rob Gronkowski. Now that's a given. That's an absolute home run. Arguably the greatest tight end of all time. It's just a shame the injuries have taken so many games away from him. We've also got in the second, Jermaine Cunningham, the linebacker. He didn't really achieve anything in the league. He goes down as a bust. Also in the second, Brandon Spikes, the linebacker. He goes down as a reasonable. I don't think it quite worked out as solid. Had a pretty short career, was a very limited player. Absolute liability in coverage, but a really solid thumper. He had an okay career in that role. Not going them up or down for that. In the third, Taylor Price, wide receiver. Did nothing with his career. He was a bust. In the fourth, obviously a controversial player, Aaron Hernandez, has to go as a value pick. Had what happened not happened, of course, he would have probably continued to have a very effective career. So it has to go down as a value pick, if I'm being honest. I can't hold the situation against the team. It was a reasonable selection. So yeah, that was a very, very solid draft there, getting some very high quality players, of course. I mean, Gronk and McCourty, that's a pretty good haul in and of itself. The 2011 draft, first round, we've got Nate Solder, the offensive tackle, with the 17th pick. He's had a solid career. Injuries have again been a problem for him, but I think that pick worked out for them. In the second, Razai Dowling, the defensive back. He goes down as a bust. Shane Vereen, the running back, also in round 2. I've given that a solid. It's an iffy one. I could definitely mark that down for just meeting expectations. But I think for the role that was selected and being given, he was a pretty good pick. In the third, Stevan Ridley. Similar situation. If it was a second, I wouldn't have gave it a Scott. For a third, I think he did reasonably. He's gone on to have an okay career. That was a solid pick. Ryan Mallett also in the third. That goes down as a bust. And then in the fifth, we've got another value pick, Marcus Cannon, the offensive lineman. He's been a bit of a jack of all trades for the Patriots. He's been a very useful player to have on that roster. Great value in the fifth round. This is the kind of lineman that every team should want. Not necessarily, a Pro Bowl, all-pro type player, but that kind of versatility. Can play up and down the line in a pinch. Fantastic depth if you've got anybody better. Yeah, good player. The 2012 draft, first round pick, we got a pair of them. We got Chandler Jones, the defensive end / outside linebacker, with the 21st overall pick. That was a solid pick. Had a good career in New England, of course. Now playing with the Cardinals, just had his best pro season. That was a solid pick. Donta Hightower was selected a few picks later with the 25th. Of course, the heartbeat of that defensive unit, just re-signed with the team. That has to go down as a solid pick. In the second, Tavon Wilson, defensive back. He did nothing, but he has played a bit, going nowhere with that one. Third, Jake Burkett, defense tackle. I don't even know who that is. He's a bust. He's not done anything. The 2013 draft now. No first rounders this year. In the second, Jamie Collins. It's a fantastic pick. Of course, no longer with the team. That goes down as a solid. Aaron Dobson, the wide receiver, also in round 2. That goes down as a bust. In the third, Logan Ryan, defensive back, newly signed with the Tennessee Titans. He's been very effective for them. Great third round pick. And in the third, Deron Harmon, defensive back. He's provided a bit of depth. I think he provides solid depth. So for that, he goes down as just a reasonable pick. First or second, it may edge toward bust. Now, the 2014 draft. Now, just to come back for the last 3 drafts, there's a lot more non-scoring players, simply because a lot of them, of course, haven't seen the field enough for me to make a judgment. So, for that reason, there may not be too many here. 2014, first round, Dominique Easley, defensive tackle. This one could go down as a bust for sure. 29th overall pick, but I'm not going to grade it for now. I don't know. He may end up doing something. Second, Jimmy Garoppolo, definitely solid. If all the rumours is to be heard, if he was to get traded, I imagine they'd get great value for him now. He played very well last year when he was called to start in the wake of Brady's suspension. Definitely a solid pick there. And in the fourth, we've got several decent value picks. So we've got Brian Stork, the centre, James White, the running back. So I don't think either one of them alone constitutes being a value pick, but if you could put them together, I'll give them a value there. Pretty good all round. 2015 draft, we've got Malcolm Brown, the defensive tackle, 32nd overall pick. I think he's turned into a solid player, played very well last year. In fact, I'm going to go back to Dominique Easley. I'm going to put that as a bust. There's definitely a bust at this point. Jordan Richards, the safety, I'm not giving a grade there. In the third, Geno Grissom, I don't even believe he's still with the team, so he goes down as a bust. And in the fourth, Trey Flowers, he played pretty well last year. I'm going to give that a value pick, even though I could easily see potentially taking that one away. Then we've got the 2016 draft last year. Didn't have a first rounder. In the second, Cyrus Jones. In the third, Joe Thuney, the guard. Could have gave that a solid, but I'm going to wait and see a bit on that. In the third, Jacoby Brissett, the quarterback. Struggled in his one start, but not going to hold that against him. Who knows at this point. In the third, Vincent Valentine, one of the coolest names in the draft, defensive tackle. Again, nothing there. And in the fourth, Malcolm Mitchell. Just going to mention that because I definitely think that could end up being a value player for them, but not willing to go there yet. So, in total, the Patriots, we've got 15 solid starters out of that. One absolute home run in Gronk, and Is it only 4 value picks? It seems like there were more. No, not a huge amount of value in the end. That's strange. Thought there were more. My apologies. But 4 value picks, so that gives them a total score of 20, with a grand total of 14 busts, giving them a score of +6. Now, in terms of first rounders, they've had 8. 6 of them have been solid, which is a very, very good ratio. And 1 bust and 1 mediocre player. So that's a pretty good job there. What the Patriots, I think, here have shown is numbers matter. They've got a huge amount of picks that have been made in those first 3 rounds compared to other teams. Had great success with those first rounds, as I say, 6 of 8 working out and being good players for you. That's really good. That's definitely one of the highest percentages. So they've done a good job there. Of course, we've seen that they're more than willing to trade down. Clearly, I think you could say it appears this team targets certain specific players. If they're available, they take them. If not, they just look to trade down and amass more picks. I think that's resulted. I mean, whilst the score appears low, that's simply because there's more busts in those second or third rounders, but there's been so many more selections that they've made that they've also hit on a far larger amount than most teams. This will be better highlighted in the Friday episode, but getting 20 total players from 10 drafts is a pretty good job overall, and that's not really including the last 3 drafts where I'm very much on the fence on a lot of those players. So really, you can look at that as in the 10 years, around about 16 players. It's a good job overall. Been fantastic at finding specific players that they need. Great job finding high-end starters. As I say, this really is a testament to numbers. So now we can see why they trade back so much, why they amass so many picks. You never know, maybe the Browns have spotted this and that's why they're attempting to do what they've been doing. So, only a +6 score in the end, so sort of a bit middling. As I say, there are some definite cavats there. There's one of the more unique lists of players for a multitude of reasons. So what do you guys think? Any comments on the grading system? What do you think of the Patriots overall? Are there any picks I've graded too harshly or been too kind on? Let me know in the comments below, the Cover Zero Facebook page, over Twitter. I'll be more than happy to do my best to get back to absolutely everybody that does contact me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Really recommend checking out the Friday episode in particular. That will really build on the grading system, find some correlations. It'll hopefully show you guys a lot of interesting information about draft success in the drafts in relation to wins. It's been very interesting doing the research for this, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Check out more of the episodes if you indeed did. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, check out the Patreon, the Facebook, all that good stuff. It'd be grand. Thank you very much for your time, and as always, go Bucks.